are going to start our session. So if you are comfortable with moving forward, that would be good. So we are going to talk today about the kick-starting a leadership development plan. I am Nada Al-Farra, a Wikimedian and a member of the Leadership Development Working Group. And I'm going to present our work and the future of this work. What I'm going to say, it's early, and you are here. So yeah. Despite being early, I am sorry to tell you that being early is not a skill of a leader. We didn't include that in our leadership development plan, but I want to say I'm grateful for that. So. Where? The green? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, no one has given me this before, so. And we want to know who are you, and let us know also one thing you would like to take home from this session. So please raise your hand and let us know what you are expecting from us. And I want to know at the end of the session if I had met your expectation. Who wants to talk? Okay.
My name is Anne, and I'm an organizer from Wikimania Taiwan. So we're come here to learn the experience in this session. Thank you.
May I be the next one? Hi, this is Winnie from Wikimania Taiwan as well, and I'm one of the organizers as well. And we would like to learn something new from the event, and we would like to know if there is anything we can improve our community.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is. This is my first time. So, yeah. So my name is Rashid. I'm from Morocco, and I am the main coordinator of the user group. And I'm here to know more about leadership. Thank you.
I will clap.
Hi, everyone. Wow, I have a morning voice. My name is... Yes. Don't tell them what I did last night. No, just kidding. Hi, everyone. I'm Beverly. I actually work at the Wikimedia Foundation. And for the last year, I've been supporting this leadership development working group. So I'm really excited that this session is happening. And I'm really curious to learn, what are you all looking to learn and needing in your communities as it relates to leadership development, community development. So I'd like to learn more from you all and see how we can support you better.
I like to clap for Beverly always.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Rima. I'm from Indonesia. I'm a volunteer in, a lot of projects in Indonesian languages, whether regional or national language. What I want to learn in this session is about I'm really interested in the leadership capacity building and such things around that, and I would like to learn, and I would like to see whether there are anything that I can apply in my volunteer activities with the communities back in Indonesia. Thank you.
Hi. Oh, I'm Domenica, and until last night, I had never heard of the leadership program. Nara told me. I'm a volunteer from Munich, Germany, and I would love to learn how this program might help our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I'm here to know a brief history of the leadership and what about it, and to go in the spot. Only brief things. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure to know all of you. And I have met a few and chat with a few of you. So that was nice. And I'm now going to tell you who am I and who are we as a group. We are the Leadership Development Working Group. This group was the practical side of the sixth recommendation of the movement strategy. The sixth recommendation is about investing in leadership development, investing in skills and leadership development. And so to achieve that, we thought the people who formed this group thought the best way to achieve this is gathering 15 community members from different backgrounds, from different cultures and communities, so they can help us bring different perspectives. So we can build a leadership definition in Wikimedia context and a leadership development that would help many needs. So leadership skills is different among societies and communities. It's not the same for everyone. And in order to achieve something from this plan, we need to understand context. So that's why we had 15 members from different communities. And we have started and have done something, actually. We have published, we had 3 goals. The first one is to develop a leadership definition in Wikimedia context. The second one is to draft a plan to develop leadership in Wikimedia. The third one is the implication of this plan. And we already achieved 2 of them. We published a shared definition of leadership. So we have conducted a storytelling process. We have asked ourselves a lot of questions and shared our leadership stories to try to formulate this leadership. And we found something that leadership is about a group in Wikimedia. It's not about one person who is driving the others. No, every member of the group is contributing. Everyone is building something. Wikimedia mission is about everyone can provide something for the sum of all knowledge. And leadership is about that. Everyone has a voice, everyone should be heard, so it's a shared leadership, it's a collective effort. Not just one person, not a hierarchy, but it's about rules, responsibilities, sharing, and collective effort. We also proposed a leadership development plan. And the plan is available on Meta and available in Commons. So you can, it's 40 pages. It's not that long, and it's an interactive plan. You will have a lot of tools and a lot of concepts. What we want you to understand about leadership, that it's about guiding and inspiring others, building autonomy, helping others to envision themselves, not give them a stated vision or something that's ready. No, it's about encouraging and motivating a group of people towards a shared goal or a common vision. So in Wikimedia movement, a leader is a person, position, or a group that takes the initiative to contribute to a specific cause. And we have our leadership development plan. It's a handbook. It has tools, concepts, recommendations that will help you through 3 sections and their glossary and FAQ section. To try, the first section is about rules and the related skills to these rules for leadership. For example, on Wiki, we have users with extended rights. So what are the rules and what are the needed skills for such a rule? We also have organizers. We have people in governance position. We have facilitators. We also have trainers. So every one of these rules have different needs, have different skills, and have different way of assessing these skills. So at the end of this section, you will find a skills assessment tool to help you navigate if you are doing what you are doing right, if you are improving, so there is something that is missing from your leadership style or pattern that needs to be improved. In the second section, we are navigating situations that every leader might encounter. We are talking about burnout. We are talking about how to pass on knowledge from other people so that knowledge is not lost when one person is not here. And the third section, we are talking about how to build your own leadership development plan. Yeah, we are giving you a general guideline, but we also understand that you might have different needs. You might have different leadership necessities. So you can start your own initiative by following these general guidelines to help your community. And now let us look into the leadership development plan. And I tried to explain to you, so I hope you can go to Wikicommons and Meta and have more thorough reading of this plan. But what we are doing now is for the future. We want to know how to implement this plan. We are looking for people and their needs and what they believe that might help them in terms of leadership. So we are starting something called Leadership Development Network, where people can join and share their needs and the possible ways of fulfilling those needs. So I will ask you again here, in your community, what leadership need do you believe might help your community? What community your community lacks? When I say leadership, you will say, yeah, we lack something related to that. What do you think? It's good to discuss with each other. For example, when I hear this, I always think, yeah, it's passing knowledge. In terms of leadership, it's passing knowledge. That's a very challenging need to our community. So, what do you think about your communities? Yeah?
I think in our community would work better if we could define certain roles to certain people following their skills. Currently, everyone tries to talk into every aspect of a project, but certain people have certain skills, and it would be easier to fulfill our goals if everyone would do what they're best at, if they feel like doing it. I'm talking about a volunteering group here.
So, defining the skill that you are good at is a challenge.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, who else? There is no right or wrong answers. You are sharing what you have observed in your community.
Well, for me, from what I have observed is, well, in Indonesia, our volunteer consists of people from various backgrounds, right? And that means that a lot of people have different set of skills on themselves. But these people are all interested in is various Wikimedia projects, if not all, right? But some projects like say Wiktionary or maybe Wikidata. Wiktionary, you need to have some kind of linguistic knowledge in order to write a correct entry, right? And Wikidata, you may also need to have some kind of at least an interest even, or maybe a little bit understanding about structured database. That is not easy. Not everyone has it. Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have the interest. Not everyone who like to contribute, even who they are already interested, but they really, what even is a database, right? Such kind of thing exists, but they would like to contribute. And this different say level of knowledge within the community is something that needs to be addressed, I think, because it contributes to the sustainability of the volunteer itself, right? They are already interested. That's a really good step in the term of our volunteer sustainability. But in terms of the contribution, we may need to take more time. Like, for example, what I did is just teaching how to edit in Wikidata. That itself may sometimes I succeeded, sometimes I get several volunteers who still edit after the event, sometimes not, but it's okay. Yeah, I think you get the idea right now. Yeah? I said, the different kind of level of knowledge, which already had beforehand by each of the volunteers.
I don't know if this is applied to our group, but our group is a little more organized. We have actually, I think, 5 or 6 staff. So each one have a different role. So we have, for example, an education team, a technical team, and a communication specialist. So yeah, I think we are more established.
You are good to go.
Yeah. And,
Do you face any challenges within this team in terms of, capacity or conflict or issues in doing your work well?
Yeah, actually, this is my role. My role is to coordinate between those teams. I don't know if really we have challenges, but yeah, I think for now we are good. Maybe in the future I can answer you.
I think that sometimes is the skill you need is to observe the challenge.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
each one in our team is have skills that is suitable to his role. So as I said before, we have team with an education team that has only people that are, for example, certified trainers, and also in the technical team that working on creating bots and the programs that simplifying tasks in Wikipedia. So those are, for example, engineering, etc. And also for the communication team, we have a dedicated team. So, yeah. But
That's great.
yeah, but
That's a role model in the Arabic community, so I have to
yeah,
say that.
but maybe the challenge that we face is that we are not yet a registered group. So we still need a fiscal
Formal recognition.
a fiscal sponsor. But we are recognized within the Wikimedia Foundation, but we are not registered officially
In the country
in our,
itself, yeah.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
a challenge.
it's a big one.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, it's okay. It's okay.
I see that one of the great challenges that we face in the Arabic community, we should have the decentralization to reach out to the leadership, because our great problem in the Arabic community is that everyone would like to be a leader. This is conflict. No, everyone leader, but any leadership doesn't work in that way. So we need to make like the decentralization about this, and this requires that we change the mentality, not for 1 year or 2 years, many years to reach to this point.
Thank you. That's a good one, actually, yeah. Where everyone wants to be a leader, it's always good to share responsibilities, not to compete. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I will translate.
我们社群常常会有很多第一次加入的新伙伴。
In our community, there are a lot of newcomers for every event.
对，他们可能只是因为好奇，或者是因为许多因素。
They are just come here for curiosity.
对，所以我们就是一直尝试在做的是如何在一次聚会的短时间内让他们快速做出一些贡献。
We are trying to let the newcomers to contribute at the first time they edit Wikipedia.
对，即便只是几个简单的调修，但是如果可以就是帮助他们做出贡献，他们其实也会很容易得到成就感。
Even though they just modify some articles, they will feel a sense of achievement at that moment.
对，所以我们就是想要尝试的是，就如何帮助每个人都可以快速的做出一些贡献。
What we would like to try is, we would like to try as possible that we can to help them to contribute as soon as possible.
Thank you. So, giving the newcomers the space to thrive in leadership position is an essence, because this is how sustainability is being done in a community. So this is the platform that we are trying to kickstart in this session. We want a platform for leadership network where people can share their learnings from their needs, leadership needs, and how to apply the leadership development plan in their context, how to build their own initiative. And to interact with this plan, you can host trainings create more tools than we provided in our plan. You can establish a local hub for leadership development. You can also provide mentorship, and you can amend the definition and the plan to suit your own community. So, as we shared, I want to leave this session by asking you, what do you think the leadership development plan and the leadership development network can help you with your leadership future? So, I'm leaving this session with this question, and you can interact with this question on these platforms. We have a Telegram group for Leadership Development Network. We also have a document. We have started to put some ideas about the Leadership Development Network. You can always use Meta, and for our Leadership Development Working Group, the definition and the leadership development plan. And thank you for attending this session.
knowledge through languages while making Wikimedia more multilingual and multimodal matters. I am very happy to be holding this conversation. My name is Claudia. I am a brown feminist, techie, and activist from Bolivia, and I am the coordinator of the Language Justice Program at Whose Knowledge, which is a global multilingual campaign working to center the knowledges of the global majority world online. To start us off, I want to introduce our wonderful panelists. First, we have Pasca Darmawan. They are a researcher and extraordinary language justice activist from Indonesia, whose research interests include AI ethics, digital activism, queer internet, and information access in the global south. I also want to welcome Ishan Chakraborty. Ishan is assistant professor in the Department of English at Jadavpur University in India, where he is pursuing a PhD with a dissertation just around the corner. And he is an inspiring language justice advocate and disability rights activist. Last but not least, we are happy to welcome Dumisane Dubane joining us today. Dumisane is a polyglot person from South Africa. He's an amazing language justice strategist, an activist, Wikipedian, and convener of the first Wiki in Lava for African Wikimedians. Welcome to all three of you, and thank you for joining us today. To set the table for the panel, I want to bring some anchors to our conversation and offer some context about why we came together in this panel. At Whose Knowledge, we think deeply about historical and ongoing systems of power and privilege that define our lives today. Within this power analysis, language is a key entry point to understand the wider picture of how these structures of power operate, what impact they have on the internet and beyond, and what are some of the ways to change that. Multilinguality and multimodality are at the core of knowledge equity and language justice on the internet and on Wikimedia, right? In fact, Wikimedia is a global movement that is rooted in languages. And because Wikipedia is among the most visited websites and is arguably the largest open and free knowledge repository, what happens on Wikipedia has great impact on the larger internet. Another anchor for this conversation, and I will finish with this, is intersectionality. At Whose Knowledge, we recognize that systems of power and privilege are so hard to dismantle because they encompass multiple and interlocking forms of oppression. So to build a fair, just, and equitable knowledge movement, we need to factor these intersections into our ways of thinking and doing within the Wikimedia movement. So today we're definitely going to be bringing an intersectional lens into this conversation. Okay, that's enough of me. I'm really looking forward to start this sharing, and I will open up the space with you, Pasca. You have been part of our very first research action process on languages, which was the State of the Internet's Languages Report, and we have learned so much from you in that process. I remember you shared with us how difficult it was for you at a younger age to find online content in your language that was affirming and positive to your identities. Fast forward in time today, as a Wikipedia user, what can you say about your experience looking for content that is valuable to you in your language of choice on Wikipedia?
Alright, terima kasih Claudia. Halo semuanya, selamat pagi, selamat malam, selamat siang, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. My name is Josia Paskadarmon from Indonesia, and it is an honor for me to share my experience and perspective in this session with other wonderful panelists in here. To answer your question, as a queer Indonesian, I am quite privileged to be able to communicate, to understand English content. However, many other queer Indonesians, especially those who are marginalized, either economically, socially, geographically, or any combinations of them, are not able to understand English. Therefore, having queer content in our native language becomes very important for the queer community in Indonesia. Unfortunately, There is limited number of queer articles in Indonesian Wikipedia. There are not many articles about activists, organizations, public figures, and social movements of queer Indonesians on Wikipedia. And many of the existing articles are also a stub or article rintisan in Indonesian, which require further expansion and elaboration as they are missing a lot of important details and information. Some articles were also subjected to vandalism and also online hate speech. For example, the article on Dede Utomo, who is a prominent LGBTQI plus activist in Indonesia, is currently vandalized with an edit stating that he is an quote unquote activist sesat. This can be translated as perverted or defiant activist in English. I believe you can still see this vandalism on his article in Bahasa Indonesia right now if you go to a page about Dede Utomo in Bahasa Indonesia, because I just checked it a few hours ago and I found this vandalism. And this makes me really sad as a queer person, to be honest. All of these issues regarding Indonesian queer content on Wikipedia is quite unfortunate because the government actually imposed heavy censorship on queer representation, positive queer representation on Indonesian mainstream media. And a big platform such as Wikipedia often becomes the go-to place for many Indonesians, especially queer Indonesians, to learn more about LGBTQI plus topics. When people are Googling something related to queer topics, for example, Wikipedia often comes up on top of the search result. And that just shows how visible Wikipedia is as a gateway to information for many marginalized communities, especially for queer people in Indonesia. So for this reason, I believe that it is important for us to improve the quality and quantity of queer Indonesian articles in Wikipedia, and we still have a lot of rooms for us to grow and develop this queer content on Wikipedia.
Thank you so much for that, Pasca. That seems to me really fundamental, the point you are making about how the content that is on Wikipedia impacts search results and therefore the content that is easily accessible to people through search engines, right? That's a really key point. And I want to follow up with a similar question with you, Ishan, as a person who also thinks deeply about intersectionality. You have been an ally of Whose Knowledge for some time now, and you are presently co-designing with us a research action process where we are exploring the intersection of accessibility and languages in South Asia. What can you tell us about your experience as a Wikipedia user from that crossroads where accessibility and languages meet?
নমস্কার, শুভেচ্ছা সকলকে। আপনারা আশা করি সকলে ভালো আছেন। Greetings and lots of love. This is Ishan. I prefer to use the pronouns he, him, his, they for myself. I'm a cis gay man and I'm a person with deaf blindness. So thank you so much, Claudia, for that question. I'm just going to sort of point-wise, addressing your question point-wise would make things easier for me because also we have certain time limits. The first thing that I would want to focus on is definitely content, something which Pasca was also focusing on, that Pasca was also mentioning. Same thing applies to Bangla Wikipedia as well, but I'm talking about my intersecting identities, particularly when I'm trying to find out materials on Wikipedia in Bangla, positive, affirmative articles and materials in Bangla on Wikipedia, vis-a-vis the intersections of disability and queerness. There is very little, if any, material available on Wikipedia. And this actually speaks volumes about the socio-political economic condition of conditions in which the Bengali Wikipedia users they are having to live, they are having to survive. Firstly, the socio-economic political conditions, they do not allow us, often they do not allow us to speak about these quote unquote sensitive issues, these quote unquote issues which are in a way also tabooed in our society in certain ways. Um, it becomes very risky at times. Safety issue becomes something very important to actually come up with, to contribute articles in Bangla in on Wikipedia in these areas. So creating content becomes very difficult, but also since materials and contents are not available on Wikipedia in Bangla, and as Pasca was mentioning, same thing applies to disabled, queer, Bengali internet users. Many of them cannot access internet in English, or they cannot access internet in English in any meaningful, useful manner. And the English articles often remain beyond their reach. And these positive, affirmative articles, they do not reach them, and therefore they do not get to know about their rights. They do not get to know about they do not get to access the language which they need to affirm themselves, to assert themselves, their rights, their identities in the society. So that is the first point regarding content. But what I would also want to add to it is form. It becomes extremely, as a person with profound visual disability, I can say this with a lot of there is a lot of complaint, I would say, in my voice that I would want to express, that in Bengali, accessing Wikipedia is particularly difficult. For example, if I want to do a search in Bangla to find out materials on Google, it becomes very difficult. Some of the websites are actually, they do not read out these Bengali texts. Anyway, using your touchscreen mobile phones or desktops to type out Bangla is anyway a cumbersome process, is anyway very difficult. At least I find it very difficult. Many persons who belong to the visually disabled community of Bengal, they find it very difficult as well. So accessing, as in terms of usability as well, I would say there is a lot of barriers. There are a lot of barriers. And the third point that I would want to really focus on is the question of what you were saying, intersections. Yes, intersecting, and I would here want to reflect on my position a little bit. Today, I can access internet in English. I have certain cultural capital. I have certain privileges. Therefore, probably I can afford to disregard the lack of materials in Bangla on Wikipedia on the intersections of queer identities and disability. But there are many visually disabled persons, and also we need to keep in mind that disability and poverty in a country like India are inextricably related. Disability and lack of resources in a country like India are reciprocally related as well. And therefore, we must understand that the cultural capital which is needed to access Wikipedia in English might not be available with many disabled persons, many queer persons, or many disabled queer persons. So we also need to be careful of that power angle which comes in over there. So these are the 3 points which I would really want to raise.
Yes, the point that I want to pull out from what you were saying is how the marginalization of some languages have a greater impact other than simply accessing certain content, but it really reinforces and amplifies other kinds of injustices as well. And I want to bring one other angle into this conversation that relates to new language technologies, since we are also speaking about accessibility. And I want to tie that with structured data and mention Wikidata, which is another very important Wikimedia project, right? Wikidata is arguably one of the most important data sets used to train large language models today, and it plays a key role in the development of new language technologies, which is exciting and worrying at the same time, because gaps, inaccuracies, biases that you were already talking about from Wikipedia are transferred to Wikidata and then imprinted in technologies relying on large language models. Dumisani, you are currently part of a research action process at Whose Knowledge, through which, with our amazing partners at the Distributed Artificial Intelligence Research Institute, we are exploring different ways of building tech for African languages. More specifically, we are exploring what does it mean to build these technologies centering community values, ensuring that language communities have power and safety over what and how they share. Okay, that was a very long preamble to my question to you, Dumisani, which is, as an African languages advocate and Wikipedian, what do you think are some of the challenges and opportunities that new language technologies bring to the Wikimedia community?
Inkomo Claudia, nameshaweta kwalano Wikimania ni hlangana na n'wina ni suka la tikweni ra Afrika-Dzonga. Vito ra mina hi mina Dumisani. Thank you, Claudia. That was my way of introducing myself in my language, Xitsonga, which is one of the smallest languages in South Africa. And you touch on a very important part on the intersection between between knowledge production and language activism. And on top of that, you add another layer, which is artificial intelligence, or at least in this sense, large language models and how they play a role in the way we are producing knowledge in the Wikimedia ecosystem. I think for me, it's sad that 20 years later, we are now talking about artificial intelligence and large language models when we haven't even responded to some of the early calls about oral citation, which has been there for almost 20 years, from the work that Ashal did from India to Brazil, to the work that Bobby did here in South Africa and in Namibia. It's a connection of communities trying to say that knowledge production and curation does not only happen in a written format. And here we are. We still don't have any solution in terms of oral citations so that they can be included in the written platforms that we have, such as Wikipedia. But let's talk about these large language models that are coming in. If you look at the content translation tool, which is enabled on most of the Wikipedias, you will see that a lot of those translations are going to languages in the global south. We are representing almost 50%, more than 50% of the whole population in the world. And yet, in terms of technology that is serving us and our needs, we lag behind. We really seriously lag behind. My challenge, or my problem with large language models deployment on Wikipedia is that it is being done and leaving the community behind. Which kind of language models are being deployed? Who are the people behind the technologies? What's the interaction between me editing and translating in my language to the model becoming better with each and every edit? Do I get told about this? Do I have a say in how these language models are deployed and are improved in my language wiki? You said it correctly that the Wikidata in particular plays an important role in training large language models. But Wikidata didn't happen on its own. It is a collaborative effort of all contributors around the world in different languages, where we've painstakingly worked to incorporate and to localize our own languages into the interface. And now that work is being taken on and fed into a machine translation with all the mistakes that we have made as volunteers, with all the mistakes of lack of curation and lack of better tools in small languages to make sure that the quality that we're producing on our language wikis is the quality that we need. So there's a lot of problems that we need to sort out as we as we go on to roll these different language models. But centered to those problems is how do we bring our communities along and make sure that they are part and parcel of this development of these language models.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Dumisani. Yes, absolutely, right? I think it's coming to clear focus how important it is to put at the center community knowledges, communities' values, communities' ways of doing and being. Yeah, and I want us to move into a slightly different direction now. We have pointed out some of the critical ways in which issues of language justice manifest in Wikipedia and Wikimedia projects. And I want us to think about actions and imaginations to make Wikimedia projects more meaningfully multilingual and multimodal. And for the next set of questions, I will go backwards and start with you, Dumisani. I know you are a person who is constantly seeing the world and inhabiting it through the lens of power, languages, knowledge, and justice. So, from your positionality, what is the one barrier or challenge you would like to see addressed in the movement to advance towards a more multilingual and multimodal community?
I think the one barrier is building on what we were talking about in terms of the deployment of large language models, is how do we center communities in that deployment? How do we bring them along in the development of different machine translation technologies and how they get deployed into the projects? It's not enough to say, we've put in a talk page notification that this is going to be deployed, and here's the meta page for you to go and read a little bit more about this machine translation technology that we're deploying. That's not enough. Taking our communities along is making sure that they're part of each and every design aspect of that rolling out, including explaining to our communities where or who these large language models are being developed by. Google, do we want to improve the language models that they have? Meta, how do they tie in with the values of our communities and of our ecosystem? But if we just simply roll out without asking those questions, then we are doing a disservice to our communities who are continuing to work hard to improve. With every translation that I'm doing on my little Wikipedia Wiki, I'm improving a language model that's sitting somewhere out there that I don't even know about. And so that's a problem that we need to tackle. And we need to do a little bit more visibilization of our communities to these models that we are deploying, and take them along, because they are the greatest asset we have in this movement.
Those are such key questions, Dumisani, that you are raising, absolutely. And I think that one of the issues as well that we need to tackle, building up on what you were saying, is that we don't need to understand profoundly how these technologies work. We just need to be aware that these are processes, these are models that are not including us, the majority of the world, and therefore they need to change, right? We need to change them. With all those thoughts and reflections, I will go next with you, Ishan. For you, what is the one action or issue area you hope to see move forward?
Okay, so number one is definitely in terms of the content, translation of articles which contain positive affirmative representation of disability and queerness, the intersections, the various kinds of intersections. And of course, here we are thinking of two spectrums. Disability and queerness, they are not homogeneous ideas, but two spectrums that we are talking about, and they are intersecting with each other to really produce this iridescent identities, iridescent layers of identities. So really to actually translate those articles which are available in English and other languages into Bangla, to start a conversation there so that other Bengali users who identify with these causes, who identify with these issues, they can also come up and contribute articles to Wikipedia on these issues. That is definitely one. But the second point is as far as the form is concerned, I would want to uphold, I would want to highlight the need for multimodality. It's just not the written text which is out there, which I'll have to use my text-to-speech software to read, but also other forms of ways in which materials can be, or articles can be made available to visually disabled participants, to disabled participants, deaf blind participants, for instance. Audio material can be one. Audio versions of the articles can be definitely one that would actually talk about, that would also bring into question the accents in which actually these articles are being read out, the human touch to the articles, as it were, just not a robotic voice reading out the entire article, but a human voice reading it out. To me, that can be one, but the other can also be sign languages, bringing in sign languages into the entire picture. We do not have a Bengali sign language as such, but definitely acknowledging Indian Sign Language and actually translating these articles which are relevant to persons with disabilities, deaf blindness, and queerness, making articles available in sign language. I think that can also be an important tool, important way to approach it. So these are the two things which I would want to see.
Thank you so much for that, Ishan. Yeah, I think one of the things we all should have in the back of our minds as we think about multilinguality and multimodality is exactly that, what you said, right? That knowledge is so textured, is so rich and so plural, and it gets reduced to really its simple form when we just rely on written text. And Pasca, for you, what is the one thing you would change to improve content creation in Bahasa Indonesia on Wikipedia that would bring you joy?
Right. First of all, I would like to say that I'm grateful that Wikipedia has provided a lot of knowledge and visibility for marginalized communities all across the globe. But I think it would be very great if we can bring more native queer content to Wikipedia, especially those coming from global south countries. I noticed that many of the LGBTQI+ articles on Indonesian Wikipedia are translation of the English ones, and most of these articles focus on social events and perspectives from the northern countries, which might not be representative of the perspectives and social dynamics and lived experience of queer community in other regions, especially those living in global south. Therefore, I would love to have more queer Indonesians and allies to contribute to this knowledge building. However, one thing that I experienced when I first created an account on Wikipedia is how intimidating and overwhelming it feels to start carrying out the first task on Wikipedia, let alone to write the first article. There are so many terms and technical requirements and procedures that you need to learn and get used to, which makes sense because we have standards to keep up, and I think it only makes sense for the contributors to try to keep these standards. However, at the same time, this might discourage people, especially those coming from marginalized communities, to contribute to Wikipedia, and they might be less inclined to spend their time and to volunteer to write articles and try to build this knowledge on Wikipedia when they are already facing a lot of difficulties in real life. Therefore, I believe that it is important to address these issues, and I believe that events such as Editathon would help facilitate and increase the participation of local queer community in creating native queer content on Wikipedia. And I would love to see more of this kind of events. I believe that through this type of events, we can provide free training and workshop for new editors on the procedures and standards of Wikipedia, and we can jumpstart their contribution to knowledge building in Wikipedia. And this can also facilitate networking and knowledge sharing between queer individuals and their allies, which is important as queer people, especially in Indonesia, rarely have this opportunity to socialize and collaborate openly with each other due to the scrutiny from the government and the extremist groups. So I think this will be a great idea to organize more editathon and queer Wikipedia events, especially in the Global South, focusing on populating Wikipedia with more native queer content that are relevant with the local queer community. And hopefully these kind of initiatives would lead to more active and sustainable contribution and content creation from queer Indonesian on Wikipedia.
Mhm. That's also a very important point, Pasca, in the sense that we can tie this issue on increasing participation on Wikimedia, tie that with the different reflections we have been having around accessibility and around also new language technologies. So I think these are all great points to have in mind. For me, I would have loved that this conversation would be accessible in other languages than English. Unfortunately, that was not possible. And that perhaps is yet another point of reflection as we close our panel on how important practice is. Okay, I think our time is almost up. Clearly, 30 minutes is not enough for this conversation. We have a lot to say, but we are grateful to Wikimania for providing us this space, and we are very sorry that there isn't a way to interact with all of you who are listening and watching us, because we also care deeply about what you have to say. Yeah, so please reach out to us via our social media channels. You can find us with the handle @whose-knowledge, and let's continue the conversation there. And to Pasca, Dumisani, and Ishan, once again, thank you so much. It has been an honor to be in conversation with you. Thank you and goodbye.
line, 2 of our members who are going to be beaming in, hopefully. Right now, we're trying to get everything set up. And this is my personal stuff, and you are all seeing it. Can we take that off, please? Either way, it's great to see you all, and I'm very glad that you've come in here. Today we're going to be talking about a proposal for an idea we have to connect folks on in the Wikimedia movement together. There was an opportunity when we saw that we were going to be here in Singapore that we didn't want to pass up. And that opportunity was normally we at Wikimedians of the Caribbean, we are in a completely different time zone, completely far away from many of the other island-focused groups that are out there in the movement. And we wanted the opportunity, since we're here, to connect with other islanders and folks interested and interested in island nations and knowledge coming from island nations. Now, something that we thought when we got together in 2018, and Richard, if you could come up to the front. This group was assembled in the Wiki Conference North America. And what we did was we, about a few months later, organized a user group that focuses on the importance of the contributions of island nations in the Caribbean beyond the shores. Now, I was born in the Caribbean. I was born in an island called Dominica. It's a small island nation. If you want to look at us on the map, hopefully we're on the map. That was one of the issues that brought us together. Is that you would count us maybe about 4 islands up from Venezuela, and you'd find us in between Martinique and Guadeloupe. Now, I came to the United States when I was a young child, and my immigrant family immigrated to New York City. And, oh, sorry, go ahead. And something that has always been important to me and to many who are in the diaspora of their countries is staying close to your roots and staying close to the knowledge and developments of where you're from. And how many of you in the audience right now are from an island nation? How many of you in the audience right now also maybe are connected in some way to someone from an island nation? Now, I'm very excited here in Singapore to know the history of the country, about how Singapore came to be. I know that Singapore is the only city nation, right, of its kind in the world. I believe there's Monaco and Vatican City and a few others that are also in a similar context, but I believe Singapore is unique in some of this regard. Another group of people that I really wanted to meet while here are those from the Philippines. Now, I'm bringing these things up because I know that in the last few years, the island nation that I'm originally from has been dealing with some of the similar issues as many other island nations in the world, one of them being climate change. Another of them being dealing with landmass issues and so forth. There's also very interesting connective tissue between island nations, and that includes, for example, knowledge of the natural sciences, different issues that specifically deal with countries that are locked away from what many would consider the mainstream flow of information. You know, sometimes there's something that might happen in, for example, it might happen somewhere in one of the areas of the Caribbean, for example, like Haiti, or I just mentioned Dominica, or in other areas that may be overlooked by those looking at information coming from larger countries that are out of that context. So what we and the Wikimedians of the Caribbean wanted to do was make sure that information like this wasn't overlooked, and also to make sure that the Caribbean was not left out of the conversation when it came to information on Wikipedia. Now, whenever you're dealing with thematic groups and situations, you find that there's not only one theme area that bonds us, but many. And part of that is also connecting with one another, talking to each other, learning from each other's experiences. And something that we've enjoyed doing over the last 5+ years in WikiCarry has been just that. We meet on a regular basis and find ways to not only amplify the Caribbean, but also to amplify the issues and subject matter that have to do with the Caribbean. You're going to hear hopefully a little bit later from some of our members who are coming in from online and have been pre-recorded. And one of those areas is going to be the digital human rights. And another is dealing with, like I mentioned before, the natural sciences and learning more about the things that make up the culture, the history, and the connective tissue of the islands of the Caribbean. But in this time, we wanted to focus on a new idea. It's called Wiki Oasis. Wiki Oasis stands for Wikimedians organized in association with small island states. Now, Wiki Oasis, we came up with that because we understand an oasis for many is a palm tree in the desert, right? But it's the opposite for us. We see island states as oases of culture, of knowledge, of information, of potential, of so much more than, for example, a passing trip on a cruise ship or a few days here and there to spend time on a beach or so forth. There's so much more to know, so much more to learn, and so much more to glean from. But not only that, we have a lot that we can glean from one another. So, Wiki Oasis is essentially a group of people within the movement, part of independent and different groups who have decided to create intentional community to support one another in the movement. Now, we know that a lot of folks, especially those in this room who've traveled thousands of miles to be here, that, another group to be a part of can be daunting for some. But for us, we see this as great. Hey, Kira. For us, we see this as an opportunity that we can make the most of, not only while we're here, but throughout the year. So we would like to try to start off with at least biannually meeting with one another online. And then as the group needs, we want to see if we can meet some more. Now, there's been talk of things like hubs. There's also groups like affiliate communities and thematic groups. What we'd like to do today is, thank you very much. What we'd like to do today is take the opportunity to connect with you all in the room and you all online to see what you think about the idea of a group like this coming into being. Not only that, but this is a good time to discuss this because because it allows us to connect and grow not only the idea and the thought of this, but also to help move it along where folks see the need and the desire. Now, finally, our technology has been fixed, and I'm going to try and move it along to where we are. So hold on one moment. The green big button. Mm-hmm. Now, I mentioned what Wiki Oasis was. Okay, now who would be invited into this intentional community? This intentional community is not just made up of people who have been born in a small island state, but people who are interested in knowledge coming from this area. People who are interested in amplifying that knowledge and making it full and complete. For example, there are some issues that fall within small island nations especially that may overlap with issues that come from the communities that you are from. For example, access to technology. We've already covered a little bit about climate change and weather, dramatic weather changes. Earlier last year, 2 years ago, Wikimedians of the Caribbean connected with folks in Norway to discuss about how we're both affected, folks in the Caribbean and folks in Scandinavia are affected by the melting of ice, by climate change within our waterways. So there's a lot of ways that we can connect around the idea of what's happening in small island states. The main idea is we don't want to overlook it. There are 50 island countries and 44 island territories. So not only is this, when you think of the landmass all put together, is this significant, but it also means that these island countries, island territories, also have connection with the countries around them and with the trajectory of those communities. So sometimes when we think of island countries, we think of it's almost an afterthought for many because we're so focused on, for example, I'll just give you an example that's close to my heart. At Wikimedia, you know when you go upstairs and you put your little pin on the wall and you look for the country that you're from. And so one year when I was, still new to the movement, I went and I looked for my country of birth. And I went, where is it? I see Hispaniola as a line, and I see, I think they had Cuba, and that was it. Okay, well, so what message does that send you when you're not even included in the picture? What message does that send you when you're literally not on the map, right? Thankfully today, that's completely different. And I'm not going to say it's because of little old Wikimedians of the Caribbean, but what I will say is that it's wonderful to see that that expansion has happened because it sends a message now, not only are you literally on the map, but also that you matter, that what comes from your country matters. I'm also originally from a developing country, and we used to be called, and I think we still are called, third world. We've been called, like I mentioned, developing nations. It always speaks to us of you have a ways to go to meet the standard. But I think in many ways, the standard is being met in all of our, everywhere you go, because you are your standard. What you know is just as important as the larger context of information. And I think that's important to send regardless of where we fall in whether it's economics or otherwise. Okay, before I begin to trail off, I want to see if we have been able to reach the folks online. Okay. Okay, well, I want to just continue with what we have before you today. Hold on. Is it still connected? So basically, in the end, what we're trying to do is to forward the idea of the use of and value of groups like this within the movement. All right, should I just continue here? Great. Oh, that's fine. That's okay. So going back to the idea of issues dealing with severe weather and climate change, I just wanted to continue to show some of the areas that we identified were important for island communities especially, and that includes climate change, environment, and so forth. Areas that we're dealing with that not only is this information important, but it also is important for in the larger context of the globe as well. Now, one of the reasons why the focus on island nations is important is because oftentimes in this area, especially of the effects of changes in climate and severe weather, is that we deal with it first. So especially low-lying island nations will see the effect of some of these areas before other populations that are on land, non-island nations. I want to also continue. These are some of the areas that we wanted to identify with you as well. That's digital human rights, island-focused knowledge sharing, and the use and value in the movement. Now, one of the areas that I wanted to highlight was not only that this year, there's something called the Digital Compact. It was led by the United Nations, and we were very pleased to be able to be a part of that conversation. For many dealing with, for example, in the context of severe weather like hurricanes and so forth, infrastructure is very strongly affected. And when you're talking about improving access to larger communities, and of course this conference focuses on diversity, the future, and so forth, and collaboration, how can you ensure collaboration, greater participation and diversity without the infrastructure and the ability to access the internet in the first place? Now, this is not something I'm saying we will solve, but it's something that I think is important to take a second and third look at in the movement, because if you are dealing with access to the technology in the first place, if you're dealing with, for example, many in the Wiki human rights community and are looking at is, okay, what happens in the follow-up to an event? What can we do to ensure that people dealing with these areas are going to be able to reconnect to the community and be able to continue their work within the community? Then what you're looking at is something that not only affects one area. For example, let's say there's an event happening in one part of the community in the world, but it's something that potentially also affects many other areas. Now, in the case of Wiki Oasis, a group like this can connect folks who are looking at these issues, and we can collectively find solutions that not only meet the needs generally, but focus on the specific areas that will inevitably come to specifically those in island communities. A large brushstroke, at least there is a brush. But with communities like this, you can prepare. You can also glean on best practices, knowledge, and information within those communities. Now, we did have 2 people in the wings waiting and a video, and unfortunately, those are not available at the moment. But what I want to do is say that the group of folks that we've come together and come up with this idea, there is a particular commitment to the movement and to not only amplifying information in the Caribbean community and island community, but they come from different communities as well. For example, Ian Ramchan comes from the education community. Oh, he's in it? Oh, great. They're coming from different communities. I run AfroCrowd, which is a group focused on amplifying representation on Wikipedia, especially in the African diaspora. There's, we've already met Richard, who has been with Wikipedia for, in the Wiki community since it's been almost 13 years, and has been involved in many different groups. And you're about to hear from Brandon Sullivan, who comes to us as well as our communications lead, who, even as a newer Wikipedian, has gone into a scholarly direction and is coming to us from Harvard right now. Hi, Brandon, how are you?
Hello, Singapore. Hello, Sherry. I'm not too bad. So glad to join you guys.
The point is, he exists. So, Brandon, we can't hear you for some reason, but
let's see.
But I do want to point out that Brendan was one of the people who spoke at the UN on our behalf. He has been working tirelessly on issues like digital human rights. And we have also connected with people who have been tirelessly working, for example, on issues dealing specifically with the Caribbean in Latin America as well. And in the coming months, we're looking forward to doing more of this and expanding it, our connectivity with not only any of you in this room who may be interested, but those who may be interested in island nations from all over the world. I'm talking about you, Cape Verde, Reunion. I'm talking about you in the Philippines and you here in Singapore and elsewhere. We want to collaborate with you in ways that we can not only tackle some of these issues using knowledge sharing and building community within Wikipedia in ways that I think only a global movement of this kind can do, is in ways that we have not only been interested in doing, but have already done. I'm looking at Netta Hussein, and I remember when during the pandemic, when we did work together around the effects of the pandemic. So we only have about 1 minute, 49 seconds, Brandon. But what I'm thinking is for the final portion of this time, we had been hoping to connect with you with any questions you had or any information you wanted to collaborate.
Are you already
And
now?
if we can switch over to my slides. Thanks, Brendan. Love the glasses. If we can switch over to my slides, please. I just want to finalize with some information that we have for you. Use the clicker? Okay. Okay. So we prepared this QR code. If you'd like to connect with us, please do by using the QR code. You can also connect by going to bit.ly/wikioasis. Just for an information, it's just an information form to say that you're interested in this idea. And also, you can find us on Twitter @WikiCarry. And you can also find us on Wiki as well, using the bit.ly that you see here. One other thing as well is that we are also, you can also find us by going to wikicarryinfo@gmail.com. So thank you very much, folks. side. Oh, yes.
Okay.
She's coming. She's. You have.
There are others in comments maybe, but they are ready to even check. No, no, but I have them.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for making time to come to the session called Modeling, Mapping, and Bridging the Knowledge Gap in Gender and Diversity. Today we have a fantastic panel who will be presenting some critical knowledge on the work that they've been doing in the movement and on the projects to, of course, model, map, and bridge knowledge gaps. The first presentation will be from Dr. Netta Hussain, who describes the process of mapping knowledge gaps on Wikipedia, drawing experience from Wiki project Women's Health. The second presentation will be from Danielle Matilli and Chiara Paolini, which explores the Wikidata Gender Diversity Project. The project explores gender diversity in Wikidata and focuses in particular on marginalized gender identities, such as trans and binary people. The presentation will explore how the current Wikidata ontology model represents gender, including quantitative methodology, and it explores looking at how the Wikidata community has evolved from very narrow interpretations of gender as binary towards the inclusion of a wider spectrum of gender identities. The third presentation by Galder Gonzalez explores the current list of 2,000 biographies that every Wikipedia should have, a list which has been created collaboratively by Wikimedians. The presentation shows how the list is far from being universal and how diversity is a contested topic when adding a new biography to the list. The presenters will analyze gender, location, time, and language coverage and discuss a way to improve the diversity of the items proposed on that list. Finally, I will be presenting the Foundation's plans to work together with communities to address the gender gap through more effective community programs. Questions covered will include what we have done in recent years to move the needle forward on the gender gap, what we are hoping to do in the new year to support gender organizers in the work, and how people can find and reach out to us for more information and support. First, I would like to welcome to the stage Dr. Netta Hussain, who is a volunteer since 2010. Thank you so much, Netta. Oh, sure. How do I do that? Sure, let's go.
Thanks, everyone. My name is Netta Hussain. I'm a volunteer, mostly working with articles related to women's health on the English language Wikipedia. So on the English language Wikipedia, we have a portal, a wiki project for women's health, where we look at articles related to women's health, where people who work with women's health come together and talk about new articles for creation, saving articles from deletion, and increasing the quality of existing articles. So this project was started in 2015, but it did not create a lot of momentum. It was quite inactive as of 2022. And then I wanted to change the situation, and I wanted to do more of mapping and bridging these knowledge gaps surrounding women's health on English Wikipedia. So I first started it off as a Wikipedia in the Wikipedia namespace with the title Knowledge Gaps in Women's Health. And it dealt with reproductive health, sexual health, gynecological health, mental health of women, and even physical health, including preventive and social health. I also tried to touch a little bit on social and cultural issues surrounding women, because healthcare and society and culture are very tightly interrelated, particularly in countries with low access to resources. So I began the process by mapping the existing knowledge gaps that we have in terms of women's health. So I used nav boxes to be able to map all these knowledge gaps. So you can see that there's a nav box on women's health. It was already existing on English Wikipedia, but there are also nav boxes on feminism, for example. So I mapped some of the existing knowledge related to women's health through naive boxes. And then now it was time to find what missing articles exist. So I looked at 20 textbooks related to obstetrics and gynecology, women's health, and looked at the appendix section of the textbooks. I grabbed the keywords related to women's health and compared it with the corpus of information that we have on English language Wikipedia. And I found that you can see that many of them are red links. Some of them could be redirects. Some of them could be stub articles. I mean, all these red links are the articles that do not exist, but it doesn't necessarily mean that these articles could be created, because sometimes this article would be existing in a different name so that it could be a redirect also. So I arranged them in alphabetical order, and this is the list that I collated by comparing external information with Wikipedia information and seeing what is missing with us. And because women's health is so vast, it was not possible to talk about knowledge gaps in everything. So I focused on 3 main important areas: misinformation, gynecological cancers, and abortion. And here I can show you some of the knowledge gaps related to misinformation. And it was surprising for me that we still do not have an article about misinformation related to abortion or misinformation related to birth control, for example. And a lot of gynecological surgical procedures also did not have an article. And this is quite important because we know that historically women's health has been marginalized in many countries, and the only access for them to know about the surgeries they are probably going to have would be from the internet, and probably it's Wikipedia that they are going to look up more about the surgical procedures that they have to undergo. And you can see that all these articles are not present when it comes to gynecological surgery, mortality, epidemiology, and I also try to map some knowledge gaps related to the economic impact of breast cancer and unsafe abortion, for example. There were some themes that were emerging. We have some good articles about sex and gender differences in different aspects of medicine, but we do not have an article about, say, gender pay gap in medicine, for example, or gender differences in healthcare access. And along with mapping these knowledge gaps, I also found references that could be used to bridge these knowledge gaps. And in the process, I also looked at how knowledge gaps vary between countries. So here is the article about abortion in Albania, and it's a start class category, and its size is such and such. But when it comes to, you can see that when it comes to